Hello, welcome to the Near Future podcast, where today we have our second extra special guest, Domingo Widen, who is a staff product designer at Fin, formerly known as Intercom. Domingo works on the front-end infra team. We're going to learn more about that today, and we'll hear about some of the exciting things they're working on and how they're working. I wanted to also set a bit of context for the start of this episode that Domingo and I used to work together many years ago at Monzo. Super fun to work with you, Domingo, and it's nice that we can return to a light touch collaboration like this to hear how things have been going since then. But also, you shared some really cool things at a mostly working event, which we ran in January or February earlier this year, an AI and design morning where you came and gave a demo of what you're working on and how prototyping works at Fin. We're going to kick off with perhaps a little bit of an update on how things have gone since the start of this year in terms of how the team is working today and how you're working on the team today.
Thank you so much for having me, first of all. Things are continuing to evolve in the sense of we are all using AI more and more. And I think designers are getting really comfortable with actually going in and shipping a change to production. So that's kind of been the biggest shift that I've seen in the past 6 months. Designers going from, hey, I'm gonna prototype something in this like sandbox to actually I'm just gonna prototype it directly in production, and I'm gonna create a PR and I'm just gonna submit it, and then it will get approved, or I will work with Claude to get it approved. So that has been the biggest shift. If designers are way more comfortable with doing that. And yeah, my team, basically for context as well, for everybody, my team is called Front-End Infrastructure. We own the whole front end of the application, and our mission is to build a platform and tools so all the teams can ship faster, safer, use AI, and like just get from concept to production the fastest, whether it's building prototyping tools for designers to building pipelines for engineers so they can ship React quicker as well. So we own the design system, we own security in the front end, we own a bunch of stuff. So that's kind of what we do and how things have changed.
So, Domingo, just to clarify, so your role these days, is it still in the world of product design? Would you consider your professional role product designer, or has it shifted or evolved into something more infrastructural? Or
I think it's a mixture of both. I do go and help with teams, so I kind of float around. So over the past few months, for example, I've been helping with a team called Operator. So it's a product that we're building, which allows you to configure Fin directly with AI. So because I have a good overview of all the patterns across the system, I tend to get tapped to be like, hey, can you just go and help that team and like influence how they're building certain patterns? And it's really helpful because then I bring that information to the infrastructure team and say, hey, I think we just need to build a new navigation for these folks, or these folks are like taking way too long to code certain things, or actually we should change this design so we can help them. So I tend to split my time between, like thinking about the infrastructure, the skills, the tooling, the design system, and all that stuff, but also going in and like doing product design and prototyping myself and helping others essentially. And also a little bit of evangelizing that I do across the team, just like use AI, use it now, use it more. Yeah. Yeah.
are there any Slack reactions in Fin for Domingo hypes AI?
Yeah, there is like they always the team always makes fun of me sometimes because they say that I should start having my own YouTube channel. I've been doing a few interviews like this ones. I enjoy it. I enjoy talking about how we're working, and I have the privilege of working in a place that allows us to experiment. So why not talk about it? Yeah.
Hi, Domingo. Nice to see you again.
Hello.
I was at the mostly working session that we ran I attended in February, something like that. And that was this crazy time when claws were appearing and the Opus models were getting really good. And it feels like people were moving from, or designers were moving from AI is something that I should play around with to AI can really power things for me. And I think so much has changed in the 6 months since across the industry, but I remember you demoing what you had built and telling a story around what you'd built at Intercom to get 100 designers. Is it about 100 designers, something like that? Running prod as part of the infamous now Q3 or Q4 goal to get every designer shipping something in prod. I remember it being talked about last year in 2025, and everyone was like, well, that's crazy. And now it feels like not that crazy, I suppose, but Intercom have always been first to all of this stuff. I suppose to get to an actual question, I think it'd be really interesting to just hear you talk through the process you went through to get from no one can do this, no designers feel comfortable, to everyone has done it, and how much of that was hearts and minds in helping designers be comfortable in the terminal, and how much of that was building infrastructure. I think for anyone that any designer listening to this who's like, I really want to get everyone going, like, how would you recommend you do it now? And maybe it's different to how you did it because the tools are different, but yeah, what was the pain?
So when we started, I was one of the first ones to do it, and it all started because I was working on a big Intercom fin redesign at the time, and my engineer was exploring with a lot of like color tokens and stuff like that, and I just wanted to be able to do it myself. The engineering team was already dabbling with AI, and he kind of said to me, like, why don't you just set up your developer environment? And like, I was one of the first designers to go through the process, and it's a complicated process setting up your developer environment. Every engineer that comes into Intercom, Fin, comes in and needs to spend like the first half a day or day just installing all the things and like making sure everything is secure. So I did it, and I saw the benefit, and I started kind of like dabbling with AI, and I saw others as well, and it kind of became apparent that when you're in there and when you have an AI tool, you can start asking questions about your code base. Not even prototyping. You can start asking questions around, what are the edge cases? How is this data structure? How does this work? Is there any of the files are using the same component? And how many other pages are called this way? You can really use your own code base as a knowledge base to understand your product, to find edge cases and to work. So I can't say that it happened organically. Like, I think the leaders within the organization, some of us did it, and the leaders with the organization, they saw the potential of like everybody being in code as well. And Tom, our head of design, he set up a mandate saying everybody should be set up in the developer environment by, I can't remember what it was, but like by a certain date. Mm-hmm. That was stressful for a lot of people. A lot of people didn't want to do it, but we went through the process of like we wrote a lot of guides on how to do it. We worked with engineering. Engineering was really open as well, which helped us. They were like, yeah, sure, we'll help you out, and then why don't you do it? And they kind of gave us engineers to like help us write the guides, and like we ran multiple sessions where we will spend like 3 hours on a room and with an engineer, and everybody will be setting things up, and somebody will be like, oh, it's blocked, I don't understand what's happening. And then the engineer will be like, actually, you have to run that script again, or actually, you have to run that script again.
Right.
So the process at the beginning was like that. It was very difficult, but then we kind of optimized it, and like we work with engineers to like make it a bit easier. And we actually spotted problems, because one of the things that we told engineers is like, it's really difficult to set this up, and it's not very user friendly. Why are you forcing your engineers to go through a process that is not user friendly? And we then influence that back into, we have a team called Team Builder Tools. So Team Builder Tools is the team that manages all their organization's engineering tools and all that kind of stuff. And then they like our developer environments and stuff like that, our security, our pipelines. So they were like, okay, actually, you're right. And so they also helped us improve some of the processes, the scripts, so they're shorter. So we have to do less things, and they help us write a guide that is in a pretty good space. The thing about all of this is like, once you set it up once, then it's done. Then the problem becomes teaching designers that they need to start behaving like the engineers. Like every time you open your developer environment, you need to pull your changes. and
Yeah.
you need to pull the latest from master, and you need to make sure you update because we might have launched a new version of a package that you haven't updated. So that once we went through the process of everybody set up, the problems after that has been like, oh, my developer environment doesn't work. Well, it's because you haven't pulled your latest from master, and it's
Mm.
because you haven't updated your package. And now we went through the whole process, and we are in a stage where like designers are like, that nobody's asking about it. Nobody's asking,
Yeah.
is broken. People are using Claude to like self-serve, or like everybody's
Right.
kind of knows it. So it's mostly like serving the new designers that are joining, that are like, okay, need to set it up again, and then we kind of help those specifically. So that was a very long-winded answer, but I hope it kind of gives you a sense of the story, you know.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think you start with mechanical Turk or with like human powered support, and then you build infrastructure around it. It's cool to hear that the engineers get to benefit as well. It's ridiculous that it takes a non-technical person to set up a good developer, a good DX on like
Yeah.
your first day. That it's the design team that forced that to happen.
Some things break, and like I've gone into a situation which is something broke for me like last week, and I couldn't get it to work, and my engineer was like, "Have you asked Claude?" And I was like, I was just like gonna ask this engineer how to help me out, and I'm like, yeah, I should ask Claude. And obviously Claude like has a lot of knowledge because the infrastructure teams have been building a lot of knowledge into our Claude instance, so it's good at it. So yeah, it kind of helped me
Right.
get out of it. It now works. I didn't have to involve anybody. Just Claude just fix it.
I wanted to ask actually about in your role as sort of arbiter of consistency and using the right components and using them in the right way and leaning on the conventions, how much of that is hard encoded versus you're building a bunch of skills and you're getting people to use those skills, and most of the time it works. You know, like how much can you sort of guarantee that you get that consistency versus it's shaping rather than, you know, like a real exact craft, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I stumbled upon this role. So I've never had to work on design systems until now, and I realized that in a lot of companies before, or even at Intercom at the beginning, the there's always the consistency problem, and there is always the design system team or the person maintaining it. It feels like, you know, they're policing people, or slowing people down, or saying, hey, you don't have this component, don't go there because it's not ready yet, and then you have to build until it's ready so you can build it. And I just realized early on, and I told my team, like when I kind of started doing this, I'm like, this is not gonna work because we can't slow down the company. We're moving really fast. It's something that we're known for. So we need to we need to be open, so like for the consistency not to be there.
Yeah.
And we need to try to enforce things in a different way. Like I can't tell a team, hey, you shouldn't do this right now because it's not ready. If a team can build it in an hour with Claude, they're just going to do it anyway. So I think we've been thinking a lot about how to enforce our patterns in a different way. So like the thing that we work on right now a lot is I still go and join design critiques, and I tell designers, oh, you should have not used that, or like, have you thought about that, or like, yeah, maybe use it, but be aware that you have to change after. But what we work right now is our design system is called Search, and we basically started playing with skills, and we realized that they kind of don't work all the time. So we realized that skills are only as good as the knowledge base that they read from. So we've been working on this thing that we call search intelligence, which is like a collection of it basically encodes how the front end is built, not only design wise but also engineering wise. So it's like the best practices for React, the best way to do imports, the best way to use color, the best way to use typography, tokens, the best way to when to use a button, when not to use a button, when you use an input field. And it's all essentially MD files that are all structured in a way where then now what we've done is that we rewrote those skills to read those files. And every time those skills run, I can guarantee that Claude will read the design files from Search Intelligence, and it will give you an answer that is informed by us. So that way we can extend our influence without us being there, you know. So if an engineer is like asking, oh, is this page designed well, then Claude will automatically, with the word design, will trigger into the search design skill, and it will be like, oh, let me just check the files from search intelligence, and it will be like, oh yeah, actually you didn't use the area label for this stuff. You should have used this area label, you know, like, and then it's like, okay, cool, done. So we're still improving it, but it's how I see the future, where I'm building the brain, and then this thing is going and helping you, but I don't have to be there, you know, like I don't have to like be in all the conversations. And partly we're doing it a lot because there's engineers working without designers because they can just build features on their own. And there is designers working without engineers as well, where they are also building features on their own. So we need to have like really powerful AI tools so they can get their job done. That's kind of the mission.
Search intelligence sounds super cool. Of that audience split that you mentioned, engineers and designers, do you serve them both equally, or do you find that your time is more spent with engineers or more spent with designers? How do you think about that audience for this?
We serve them both equally, but there is more engineers, essentially. So we are optimizing things to be really easy to understand for engineers. Especially when it comes to, because one of the things I'm slowly encoding is like decisions on when to use a pattern or not, or like when should you use a secondary button and why, and like how big should it be, and make sure that it's this big when this is happening alongside it. So there is a lot of design shared knowledge that we kind of know. We look at a page and we're like, yeah, you know, that should be a secondary button, that should be primary. But an engineer just don't necessarily train into that. So I've been trying to kind of really encode some of those decisions so an engineer doesn't have to go through it. Because I want to allow them to just build a page. So the designers, they don't need to waste their time QAing these pages. They can actually put their time creating vision, you know, and what's next, which is what I think designers should be spending their time, essentially. Yeah.
It's interesting, when your audience is engineers, you sort of have to layer on an extra thing that if you were just working with designers, you could fairly safely assume through the interview process and working at Fin that they would be able to decide which button's appropriate. And so I suppose if you're building these skills for designers, it's very much about like filling in the engineering half, like use the right component and make it semantically accessible and like all of this kind of stuff, and like write the code in the correct way. So coding convention. But then if you're working with engineers, actually the missing knowledge is the design process. So it becomes more about UX. So they're probably quite different skills, and you need both for the different audiences. I suppose it just makes me wonder if either side is seeing this as threatening to them in any way. Like if you've got designers like trying to codify their knowledge so that they don't have to do that anymore, do they see that as like, now I have more leverage, I can do more important things? Or is that not how they're thinking about it?
I don't think anybody here, at least here, is thinking about it as a threat. And I think it's because of the way we approached AI from the beginning. Like, you know, like we're building AI agents. We were told very early on, like, use AI to make you faster. It doesn't matter. Yeah, just use it. And I remember at the beginning, we were even allowed to have any subscription that we wanted. I could just like try all the tools and then figure out the way that the one that was faster. Now, obviously, like through learning, we kind of landed on Claude. Claude is way better. You can really build infrastructure around Claude. But we've always had the mentality in the company of like, you know, this is not going to replace you. This is just going to make you faster to do other things. And then you need to have the critical thinking to make the decision yourself. One of the reasons one of the like triggers for me to create search intelligence is because I also saw designers doing this. Like designers automatically started writing their own skills to help their engineers in their teams QA things because they didn't want to spend time QAing, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So I was like, that makes sense, right? Like nobody wants to spend time QAing, you know, like, and they want to just create the new things. So it makes us realize like, actually, yeah, there is a lot of like jobs that designers don't want to do and that could be automated. And they still need to be a pass, you know, a design pass on everything. But if an engineer can get it like 85, that's great. Then we 85% we can put it in front of a user,
Definitely.
and then
That makes
we can
sense.
start learning, and then okay, let's do another pass if we want to. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And something that hearing you talk about it makes me think of is there are sort of two questions. One is the X number of designers who have built their own skills to codify their own instincts. What does the pipeline look like for getting that design insight into the stuff that you're building? Or is this sort of Domingo led and everyone else has to sort of ladder up to that? And then I guess related to this is, have you found there is a line where you can codify to a certain stage, but then maybe that's the 85% you're referring to, but where is it really difficult to apply an AI defined bar for what is good, and where does it require that human input in the process?
So in terms of skills, anybody is allowed to create their own skill, and the way the skills work, they run on your own machine basically. We do have a team called Team 2X, which is they basically maintain the skills for the whole organization, and they have a big repository where we have actually what we created for Claude is like plugins that then we attach skills to, and then those plugins, when you install your developer environment and you install all your things, those skills are there, and those skills were approved by us. So there is like two levels of skills. There's skills that are like global for everybody, like the ones that we create for search intelligence. That's like search design, that's for everybody. Search content, that's for everybody. Handoff, that's for everybody. But then a designer might have their own small thing that they created for themselves on the day-to-day. They should still be allowed to. Everybody can contribute to the master big 2X repository, but there is a process where you go through. So you actually open a PR, and the Team 2X sees it, and then there's a bunch of extra AI review on your skill to make sure it's as good as the skills of the master repository. And there is conversations that happens because designers are saying, hey, the main intelligence skills doesn't do this and this. Can we have it do this? I'm like, okay, cool. Let me just use it in your local for now. Let me just put a change for the master one, or like just open a PR, and then I can upgrade it. And then like it basically works very much like GitHub. It's GitHub basically. We're like, open a PR. I think the skill should be this, and then we change the skill because it's all kind of a repo basically. So that's like the first part of the question. Yeah.
Got it. And that requires, it sounds like human judgment. Like people are pinging you on Slack or whatever and saying, here's a thing that want to augment what already exists. And then you go through that process together. It's not fully automated.
It's not fully automated. We go through a process of like, should we change it? I'll read it. And then the thing that is automated is once it gets into the repository, it doesn't get approved for everybody until there is a process that Claude goes through within those skills where it improves it based on certain criteria that our teams define for security and for speed and for conventions and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's the first part. I can't remember the second part of the question.
It was kind of around the line for what is codifiable versus will always require human judgment, and is 85% the line you have in your head of what is feasible to get that to, or is it a matter of time? Like in a few months, will you be able to get it to 90 or 95%? And I guess I'm trying to really understand the sort of human leverage in the process of getting something live, especially something that is built by an engineer that has AI judgment connected into it in some way.
I still think it's a matter of time. I still think it's going to be 85% for a long time, because humans are really good at like creating patterns between multiple things they see, like just spotting the things that are related to each other and having critical thinking to say, actually, I don't think this is the right thing to do for this user because I've had a conversation with that user and this is what they're actually referring to. So there is the decision making should be like, it's human. It's the critical thinking to spot whether you're tackling the right problem. Like one of the things I tell people sometimes in this is like, you should read. Everybody should just read books, read sci-fi, read, because reading, You're going to spend a lot of your time just reading and the coding information and figuring out, is this the right thing, is this the bad thing? And I've noticed that also AI tools are they want to please you. So they will go through great lengths to code the thing that you're asking them to code, even if sometimes you can put as many safeguards as you want, but they will still try to break the rules to please you, which will then result in weird design or like duplicated design or things that maybe don't make sense or things sometimes that if you think about them critically, you didn't need to build that for B1, you know? You could have built half of it, but because you could do it with AI just built the whole thing, and now you're in a position where you have to kind of, do we need this whole thing, you know? So I think humans are very good at, maybe we should start smaller. We don't need all of this. When AI will tell you, I can do everything. I can plug in a database. I can do it really, really fancy for you. But that's not what you need, you know, for a user. You might just need a small slice. And yeah, that's kind of the fight. I still think it's going to be 85% for a while. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Domingo, I think what you've described yourself as is maybe this hybrid type person that lots of people seem to be talking about, where you may be a designer as your first study, but then you sort of turn into just a builder, you know, more generally, or you do a little bit of product thinking and a bit of design and then a lot of building, and that's just what you are now. I'm interested to sort of raise it maybe out of Finn specific, how you feel this is going to drive what a designer does more generally across the industry. Like what are the patterns you're seeing? What's your predictions for the future around this? Like, will we all end up in these like design ops, DevOpsy roles? How many people are going to be still shipping products in a more traditional product design way? You know, turning into design engineers. Everyone wants to be one of those at the moment. And like, what's the role then of, you know, the pure creativity, divergent thinking, all of the stuff that maybe AI is a bit less good at the moment?
Well, that's a big question. Huh?
No, it's about 7 questions.
I think the designers of the future are all going to be building. Whether the things that they build goes live to the user, it's unclear. You might actually don't go live to the user, you know, but we are all going to be prototyping in the real material, you know. It's so much better to be able to join a product review or a big presentation and actually open the product yourself and say, this is what I think the vision should be, and this is how we're going to help our users, versus showing a Figma click-through that is going to be like, I don't know if that's true, is that possible? So it really helps designers sell the vision of the things that they're trying to accomplish across their organizations. I think everybody will probably become very comfortable with that state, you know, being able to just go in and ship something to production because AI tools are going to be so good that they can actually do that, or being able to just work on vision pieces where they can prototype the whole thing and then give it to the engineers to like decode it. Some things that I don't think are gonna go away are, I think designers are one of the things I find myself doing a lot is coming back to traditional mediums, especially now that I am using a lot of AI, you know, things like paper and pencil, and like trying to, you know, like just do some drawing on paper and trying to think about like the future and how things could work. I think there is still going to be a benefit of designers, especially understanding design, you know, like, and like all of the things that make design good, all of the things that make UX good, those fundamental pieces of information, a designer should still know them very deeply. In the same way, an engineer will know very deeply when to use a database versus another database, you know, or when to code in a certain way for it safe versus another certain way. Even if they're not coding, they have that foundational knowledge to be able to do their job better. So I think that foundational knowledge is still going to be important for every discipline. But when we are now going into the process of like building, we're all going to be a bit closer to like the things that we're building. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm just going to pass this design over the fence. It's going to be, I did this yesterday, which I said to an engineer, I think I can do that myself. Why don't you let me design, like build and design that fix myself, and then you can get on with the more complicated pieces of the work. And he was like, yeah, cool, let's do it. And then obviously I used Claude, and I previewed it, and it worked, and I tested it, and it got shipped. But I think we're all going to be a bit closer into that, and like we all need to have that flexibility to be able to like lean into each other's positions. I think the foundational knowledge of like what is good design, what is the right problem to solve, it shouldn't go away. You should still understand this, because that's what gives you the critical thinking to examine a prototype and be like, I think that's not very good, like, or
are we talking about taste?
God.
that was a bit of a joke, but also I think everyone is trying to like decide whether taste is important, what taste even is, and I wonder if what you're describing a little bit is you can't shortcut the hours of looking at stuff and thinking about things and playing with other products and building things and them being not very good, and you thinking, well, why is that not very good? Like, you just need to go through the reps enough to be able to build up what is actually a fairly instant gut on, like, I can look at something and just know that it's right or wrong, and I can reason why.
I actually love that way of putting it. I might steal it. This whole idea of like, you just need to spend time looking at things, because I think taste is, if there is engineering taste, there is design taste, there is, strategy taste, like if you want to call it taste. Like, if you talk to a principal engineer, when they look at something, they can immediately spot, I think that's not going to work, or I think that's going to give us a problem in the future. And that is also a form of taste, like in the sense of like, they know what they're talking about because they've seen it. And I think I like your framing, which is we all need to develop that knowledge by going through the process of shipping product, of like trying or like, and designing more and designing new things and designing multiple things and figuring it out. So I like that a lot. Yeah.
When sort of designing in code more, I suppose, with AI to support, there's a set of edge cases or like failure states and things like that that a software engineer is uniquely good at knowing about, that a designer finds it hard to know about because they don't have the building experience. They haven't built the thing, and then the form needs like a failure state, or there's some way in which it can get messed up by some race condition, and there needs to be, the UI needs to do something in that situation. A designer doesn't know that because they've not ever built it before. And I feel like those kind of things, that is now a superpower that designers can have, because you'll say to Claude, build this form, and Claude will be like, I built the form, but I also did all the other stuff that you wouldn't have thought of. So there's like that. That's amazing. You read what Claude's built and you're like, I wouldn't have thought of half of those things. But then at the same time, you look at it and you're like, this is mental. Like, no one would enjoy using this at all because there's way too many things in it. And so it's quite hard to pin down exactly where one stops and the other starts, and one is much more about like feel, and like it's harder to quantify maybe. And the other one is very practically like, here's how I would write the test suite for this, and I'm going to make all the tests pass. And I have knowledge of all the tests ever written ever, so I'm going to write all the right tests. They're two quite different things. But it does feel, as a designer, you sort of get some stuff for free straight away, even if some stuff is AI is pretty useless at. I did have one last question, and I'm going to hand over to Tom because I've been asking loads of questions. And I'm just curious, in this new world that you describe, is Claude enough? Like, is Claude the tool that we end up using as designers? Like Claude plus, my local development server? Like, are we going to go further with tools? Like, is there a tool that you wish existed for this kind of workflow?
I don't think Claude is what we're using right now. I think it's going to change. We should all be open to change as well. So if a new one comes in, let's just use it. I think I think models are kind of they're going to converge. In many ways, I feel like they're getting really good. But one of the things I've been learning a lot around is like when to use and partly because I'm paying for my own Mac subscription on the side, and I want to have some economy in the way I'm using my tokens, token economy. So I've been using things like, I'm going to use Fable to plan, and then I'm going to use Sonnet or 4.0, 4.8 like Opus to execute, and then I'm going to use Fable again at the very end to just review as a principle, and then you kind of start like, I think that's going to be very interesting, like just playing with models, and you can see like Sonnet is pretty good at executing. So I think things will change. The tools that I wish existed, which is a problem that I find myself having all the time, is I go through this whole process of like building things and like I just build a bunch of designs, and it's already in production, or like it's in some playground that I build, and I have like an experimental build. And then what I find myself going through, I have this discussion on a weekly basis, which is I talk to some of the designers. I'm like, should we put this in Figma? And like, should we, and it's like, should we do it? And the thing about it, and the real problem that we're missing is like Figma is really good to sometimes put things on a page and have a presentation and align, like align.
Yeah.
Let's align on this. Let's add a couple of comments, align, this is version 1. And then I think builds and experimental builds and prototypes it's not good. You still, you're like hunting for the latest link, or like, or you're asking yourself, is that live? Is it live?
Yeah.
Let me just go check it. It is live. It was shipped yesterday. And you're like, So I think I find myself like today after this call, I have to go to Figma and I have to map something, because it would be really good for our team to align on like the state of play,
Right.
And I think nobody has cracked that. Like Figma has this thing, code to Figma, where you can do it automatically. It's terrible. It doesn't work. It's not true. It looks like an entirely different thing. So designers end up taking screenshots and putting them in Figma and annotated them. So it's just this kind of like just alignment tool, like this like coding, infinite coding canvas where things are code, but also you can comment and you can align and you can basically.
I wonder if it's because it's slow. Is it because it's like slower than the actual code base to put stuff into? You actually then do have to wait.
Yeah, like, it's just a pain.
Things are just moving under people's feet all the time.
Yeah, it's a pain, and it's just like, oh my god, because I do think whiteboards are great. Having a whiteboard, writing through things, putting a sticker, and then showing it to somebody and being like, hey, I think this is what we should do. That doesn't go away, and I think we've tried to replicate that with Figma, with Miro. It works really well in those tools, but I think now we're all like coding and building prototypes, so we're like, okay, but how do I take these prototypes and align on them? So you have to kind of take screenshots of them, put them back into Figma, and be like, this is version 1. Or some of us, we don't even do that. We're like, oh, let me just show you my latest build. But then when you don't do that, then you end up missing what was that version again? What did we ship last week? I wish something like that existed.
When I saw the state of what you were working on back in February, early this year, and specifically you walked through an example where you were asking Claude Code to basically audit your code base to understand variations of design patterns that have been used, and you were using that as a way to consolidate the design system and the sort of components and various things like this. And the team and what you're doing now with Surge Intelligence sounds like a step beyond that in terms of sort of almost zooming design judgment out to apply to a broader range of people and sort of unifying things across the wider business. I'm kind of curious how much of that you think is a temporary problem or a temporary infrastructure that needs putting in place, and in 6 months you'll move on to something else, versus this being a 2 or 3 year challenge that you think you'll face. Do you have a sense of what that future looks like for the shape of this role and this type of infrastructure layer?
I think it will, once we have things in place, there's going to be less time on it for sure, which means that because a lot of the work that we have to go through right now is like we have to re-examine some of those decisions and be like, why do headers work this way? You know, like how should they be composed? And we have to kind of write them and like figure out the best way to write them for AI so AI can do them without us. So I think there's going to be a big lift to get it set up. Then we're going to see like maybe less time put on it, and it's just more about maintaining it, adding new things, or like doing like big shifts into like maybe we're redesigning everything again and we need to do it again. So it's going to be less time, but I do think that there is going to be some form of infrastructure team, like our 2X team, like a builders tool team, like dedicated in every company to just because when I'm not doing that, I'm exploring new tools and exploring new ways to use AI for the team. So this is going to be important because I think the code base keep growing, new patterns keep getting added. There is more use cases, there is more complexity. So you have to continually train the tools so they they understand how to apply certain things better. But yeah, it's not going to be the biggest lift in the future because it's going to be like a normal thing that we do. You know, what I don't think is going to happen is that we're just not going to leave it and not touch it, which some teams do in you know, like in the old school design systems. You build like a bunch of it and then you leave it and then you kind of just you let it die. I think we're going to continuously work on this type of infrastructure because it makes AI better at coding, designing. So why would you not want to make your AI better at coding all the time? You know, you can help all your engineers, you know, in one go without them even knowing that you're helping them. It's not like before where we have to go and enforce it and we have to say to a team, hey, you should use this. Now it's happening because Claude is already doing it. So I think it's going to be like, it makes sense to continue to train these brains, you know.
Yeah, got it. So yeah, hearing you talk about it like that is less of a ship goal of establishing this infrastructure for how you work and more of an outcome, which is that you're optimizing for accelerating the design team or accelerating design at Fin as much as you can for anyone who is shipping anything, which is mostly designers and engineers right now.
Yeah, that and also like sense. There is some PMs as well using this kind of stuff to like prototype. Some marketing people using their stuff to prototype. So I would quite like a future where a designer, because as much as you hire for them and you talk to designers, sometimes they put things on a page and they start questioning components. They're like, maybe the input fields should do this. And you're like, but why are you doing that? Like, you're wasting your time. You know, like you're literally wasting your time. And I want to get it to a point where like AI can just do all of that for them. It can just be like, this is the optimal page for your use case. And then their time is, okay, but what is the use case that we haven't seen? Or do we need to do a different product entirely because this doesn't work for this? And they can, all of those low-level decisions, it could just be done for them, essentially. I think this is going to be different for more creative disciplines like, you know, graphic design, like campaign design. Those things will still need but like, if you're just designing a flow and there is an optimal way to design a flow, do you really need to redesign the flow every time you design the flow? Or should AI just design the flow for you and then you can just focus on like where are people dropping off and why? And like, is this the right flow for this or should it be another one? I don't know if that's a good way to explain it. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Excellent. Thank you so much, Domingo. We will wrap up with a couple of quick fire questions. I have one picked out that I'm going to ask. Before we start recording, Domingo, you mentioned about how you just moved into a new house and you were talking about Vitso shelving, super nice, forever lasting shelving for the house, which may inspire this question. I'm definitely leading you down that path. That wasn't actually my intention. It was more just to set context. But anyway, the question it made me think of is that when AGI takes over everything and you no longer need to design or be coding things for Fin, what will you be doing with your free time? Where will that energy go?
I will be doing two things. And it's just going to sound the most tech bro thing, the first one. But the first one will be like, I'll probably go be making fancy coffee somewhere, and like going very deep into what is the right beans to choose. And the second thing and that I will probably be using is drawing. So you don't see it here, but I do, like, I have like a whole easel here that I have on the side of my desk. So where I can, I do drawing, so I quite like it. So either drawing, making coffee, painting miniatures, stuff like that.
Oh, lovely. That
Warhammer.
sounds very.
Yes, sir.
You don't subscribe to any of the stereotypes of someone who works in tech. It's all Domingo.
I know, at all. Yeah, wow. Yeah.
The coffee nerd arc is alive and well. My quickfire question is maybe more basic, but what is the product that you look at that makes you think, I wish I'd designed that?
God.
Product you love to use. It can be a physical product, and you're not allowed to say Pizza shelves.
I'm not allowed to say Pizza shelf. That is tough. There is a product that I keep coming back to, and I try to build this on my own as well, but I just keep coming back to. It's called MyMind, and I build a version of it locally that it does it. I've used all of the inspiration tool version things that are in there, but I just keep coming back for it because it's just really simple, really nice, really nicely designed. It has really nice onboarding, really nice interactions, and it really like promotes, your spaces where you can save your own inspiration. It has like this, like after you reach certain milestones on the things you're saving, you get these like 3D cards are achievements, and then they unlock backgrounds, and it just really feels that you have a garden of inspiration. I keep coming back to it. I really like it, the product. I think it's done by Tobias Van Snyder, which is the ex-designer of Spotify. And I think I've left it. I tried to build it. I could come back to it. I really like it. And I think it's really important for designers to just save things. Yeah. Save, look at things, prune them. When like in like 6 months, look at them again and be like, I actually don't like this inspiration board anymore. Let me just prune it, because that's a part of developing what you like and what you don't, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's what we were talking about earlier. Is like they're the reps, right? That's the you're exercising your judgment every day and building it and changing it, and good answer. I like MyMind as well, and I've also considered building a bookmarking tool.
Yeah, I've tried, and it works, but it's just not like it's not as cool. So
let Tobias do it.
He'll do it well.
Yeah. So, are we done? Should we wrap?
I think that's it. Yeah. Any final things you wanted to mention that you didn't have a chance to, Domingo?
No, just thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Where do we find you online?
I am on X and on LinkedIn, and I have a website that I haven't updated in a while, but mostly X and LinkedIn. Yeah. I will answer in those channels. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Domingo.
Yeah,
it's been fascinating.
Thank you so much, guys.
If you have any feedback on the podcast, good or bad, please drop us a note at podcast@nearfuture.works. We'd love to hear it. Oh, and one final thing. Last week we announced a new workshop we're opening up to individuals to build your own design tools on the 13th of August. Find out more and grab your spot over at nearfuture.works/build. Catch you next week.